All, many thanks to Sabu for giving me one more opportunity to discuss a techno-economic subject, which today is of significant relevance. The whole world is going through a lot of turmoil and turbulence in the Middle East. And every country is looking at what is the strategic reserve they have for any possible outcome of the situation in Middle East. So when I decided to speak on this subject, the Middle East issue had not come up. But it so happens that today, when we are going to discuss, the issue is extremely dynamic. It is fluctuating between one side and another side. And there are some repercussions on this, on India as well, in some sector. But when a country looks at its strategic reserves, it looks at many sectors. And today, during the discussion, I will try and cover all the sectors in which India has made advancements in creating strategic reserves. Before I start my presentation, I want to tell you that I'm not revealing any secrets, any official secrets. Whatever data you're seeing is already in public domain. And therefore, it's possible we can discuss that and I can corroborate with what is the information. Now, as you go along, you'll realize that strategic reserves are considered by every country. But my presentation is going to be India specific as given in the title. With this, I will upload my presentation. Okay, so we're going to discuss global uncertainties and India's strategic reserves. So let's go initially to how a country prepares for global uncertainties, with India as the example. In the last few years, especially, you would have seen the uncertainties have been complex and they have been in different sectors. Some 5 years back, 4 or 5 years back, we had the pandemic, COVID, that brought in a lot of uncertainty regarding global preparedness to deal with such a pandemic. Then we had issues regarding wars between Russia and Ukraine, the security issues. Then there were international trade, which was being sort of reconfigured by USA. And behind all this, you had the climate action, which was going on continuously for the last 5-6 years without making many serious headway as far as India is concerned. Even though we have made some completion of our planned targets, the result is yet to be seen and is likely to be so because it is a long gestation sort of control of climate. It will take time to see the final results. So all these were making the global situation very uncertain. And every country prepares its blueprint because every country wants to grow. Economic growth requires many resources, and all resources are not available within the country itself. There are international dependencies. You will depend on other countries for certain resources. So every country prepares its blueprint. India has also prepared its blueprint. But the last 1 or 2 years, India has embarked on some critical manufacturing sectors like semiconductor. You have read in the paper. EV battery, which is very much required as a part of climate action. Solar panels, again required for renewable energy as a part of climate action. All these require new types of resources when you want to progress the manufacture. So your global dependencies on other countries change, and you want to minimize dependencies and maximize Atmanirbharta by looking at your strategic reserves, especially in case of some critical materials which we don't have in the country. So India has done a fair amount of work on this, and I will be sharing that in my presentation with you. And how do you make sure that the resources are continuously available for economy to grow without getting hampered? How do you create reserve stock in case there is some supply chain disruption? How do you do it? So all these issues we will cover in our presentation. Now, before that, I would like to introduce two terms, and you need to understand the difference. One is buffer stock, another is strategic reserves. Countries make plans at two levels. One is at buffer stock level, another is at strategic reserves, be it regarding food or energy or water or medicines or minerals, whatever resources are required. Buffer stock is the first level. Strategic reserve is the second layer and the last layer which we have. Buffer stock essentially means ready-to-use items. For example, wheat, rice, which are in the form of grains, fertilizers, medicines, water. They are ready to use and they are kept in stock. And when we keep them in stock, especially by the government, then we call them, they are the buffer stocks. They may be buffer stocks with Food Corporation of India, but it is under government control. The difference between buffer stock and strategic reserve is, strategic reserve is pertaining to a raw material. For example, crude oil. Crude oil is a raw material from which we refine crude oil and get petroleum, diesel, LPG, etc. So there is some process to be done on the strategic reserve to get a final product. And the strategic reserve is kept safely somewhere in the country. And that is the difference between buffer stock and strategic reserve. Ready to use product or it to be processed and the ready to use product to be made, manufactured in the country. So this is the difference between buffer stock, and I'll be using these terms off and on, so you'll appreciate where it is applicable in this manner. By 2025, last year, India has made plans for strategic reserves for 6 sectors, and I'll be explaining to you the 6 sectors. But in our discussion today, I will touch upon some more sectors where I think we should create some strategic reserves. So that will be towards the second half of the presentation. First, we look at the 6 sectors where strategic reserves are already created by government. So they are crude oil, first one, very important at this point of time because of the turmoil in Middle East. Second is the LPG. I will give you more details of it. Third is uranium, which is required for nuclear reactors. Fourth is gold. Fifth is vaccines. And sixth is seeds and plants. When I say gold, I'm also including gold and foreign exchange. I'm including in that. So these are the six strategic reserves which we have created. And I feel we should have some more. So I'm proposing rare earth, we should create reserve, water, and data. What exactly is the strategic reserve for data? We'll discuss towards the end. So these are the strategic reserves we are going to discuss. First, the six which are already existing. So strategic reserve for crude oil. 88% of crude oil is imported, either from Middle East or from Russia or from USA or Venezuela, wherever it is. But Indian production is only 12%. So let us look at the strategic reserves of crude oil. Crude oil is today, as of now, is kept in three places, as shown with the yellow dot on the map. One in Visakhapatnam, one in Mangalore, and one in Padur. The last two are in Karnataka. If you notice, all these are very close to the coastline. And some more reserves are coming by next year, which will come in Orissa and again in Padur in Karnataka. So we'll see the details of this. These are the reserves which we have in the country. How much is there, how many days reserve, etc. I will tell you. So let us look at these locations. All the locations are near coastline. Naturally so, because the crude oil comes by ship from another country, imported, or by ship from our own oil fields, which are in the sea. So the reserve is very close to coastline, so that ship can come and offload the reserve to the place where it is kept. At the same time, it should be close to a refinery, because from crude oil, as you collect and keep, thereafter you give to a refinery. So you look at a place where ship can come and where the refinery is nearby, pipes are laid accordingly, and big storage is created. Let's see that. Presently, we have 5.33 million tons. They are in three number caverns. Caverns are huge, like a cave inside a mountain. That cave is completely sealed, filled with concrete, and it is like a big storage facility from where you can pump out the crude oil and you can pump in the crude oil depending upon whether you're storing it or taking out. As I told you, they are in three places, 5.33 million tons we keep at any point of time. The storage is kept in India. What is planned is more than what is existing, 6.5 million tons. In two more caverns, one in Orissa, in a place called Chandikhol, and other one in Padur. All these facilities will become ready by 2028, 2 years from now. And what we have now is only 5.33 million tons. In future, if you want to create more storage facilities, in case you are not able to find the caverns along the coastline, it is possible that some caverns in the Rajasthan, in the hills, which are presently having salt lining, they may be used to keep. But at the moment, it's only in experimental stage, not yet created. All these sites are on one public sector called Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited, which was set up in 2004. They manage the storage of this strategic reserve. It's not that you fill up and forget about it. You fill up and then after some days use it, again fill up. So it goes on replenishment on a regular basis so that the crude oil which is stored there is utilized in between and then again topped up. We consume 0.73 million tons a day, out of which 88% is import, I told you. So the existing reserve is only for 7.5 days. For 7.5 days, India's requirement is kept as a reserve in these caves. When you get the 6.5 million tons more, which is 2 years from now, then it will become 16 days of stock will be available within the country as of present consumption. But the consumption may reduce in future because many cars are going to electric. So petroleum and diesel consumption will come down a bit, and therefore 16 days requirement may become 17 or something like that in the years to come, some 10, 15 years from now. But government does not expect anything to be increased beyond 16 days till 2030. And let us see some more details. These, as I told you, up to 16 days in 2028. In addition, now I come to buffer stock. Till now, it was strategic reserve, crude oil. In addition, oil manufacturing companies like Reliance, Indian Oil, BPCL, HPCL, they maintain stock from the refineries, maybe the same campus or some other place. For petrol, it is E20, and for diesel, for 65 days, more stock is kept. So totally, we have today 65 days plus 7.5 days. That is 72 days stock is available to us. Out of it, 7 is in crude oil. Balance are ready to use buffer stock. But in petroleum side, they call it industrial stock. But it is similar to buffer stock is maintained. Later, this buffer stock will become 81 days because the second set of caverns will get ready. As per International Energy Agency, they have advised every country to keep up to 90 days of stock in case of a disruption takes place. But we are not yet in 90 days. Today, we are up to about 72 days we keep the stock. So slowly, we'll have to build up more strategic reserve depending upon what's the requirement. So the information for you is 2 months of stock is always available in the country as far as petrol, diesel, and other products which are refined out of crude oil. Okay, let's go to LPG. 60% of your LPG is imported. LPG is one of the outputs of refinery. But only 40% is indigenously available. 60% comes from foreign countries by ships. So 60% is imported. And in September 2025, 5-6 months back, a cavern looks like this. It's a cave. A cave has been made gas tight to accommodate huge containers for keeping LPG. The LPG is not kept directly in the cave, but in huge containers, it is lowered into it and filled with LPG and kept underground by about 50 meters below ground, it is kept. And when you look from top, it looks like this, but underneath this is the LPG reserve which India has kept. This is in Mangalore. It has been manufactured by Engineers India. It is under Hindustan Petroleum with 80,000 tons of LPG is kept in huge containers from which you can take out for bottling plant so that domestic cylinders as well as commercial cylinders can be filled. As I told you, it's 50 meters below ground. We consume 32 million tons of LPG a day all over India. And so the present storage corresponds to only 1.5 days of import 40% is available from India itself, but 1.5 days of import, which is 60%, is available in this new facility which has come in September 25, 5 months back. You must have read in the papers today, this morning, that government is very seriously looking at what would be the impact of the Middle East situation as far as LPG is concerned. So there could be some restrictions coming, but I'm just telling you, there's a new facility which has been created in Mangalore, and it will cater for some small requirement of 80,000 tons for India's consumers, be it in industrial side. So I finished with LPG. Now I come to uranium. Very interesting. Uranium is required for nuclear power plants, and 1 kilo of uranium can generate energy equal to 2.7 million kilo of coal. So you require uranium to produce nuclear power, which doesn't cause pollution. So it is very important, very much preferred by us. Where do we go for the uranium? So let us see how many power plants we have. India has about 24 power plants. All power plants are in the mainland, not in the islands. All power plants are located on the eastern side, western side, but nothing in northeast. So these 24 power plants, there is a grouping here. 13 power plants are subject to international inspection by International Atomic Energy Agency. They will come and inspect how you are using, how much uranium you are using, what are you using this uranium for, are you taking away some uranium for nuclear weapon, all those things they check. Balance 11, which is not covered by 13, are not checked by international agency. But for these 13 reactors, which are subject to inspection, you are entitled to get uranium from nuclear supply group, which is an international group. From there, you can buy uranium. But for the balance 11 reactors, you cannot buy uranium from international sources. You have to use what you have in the country. And our domestic resources are only 76,000 tons. So it's a detailed, I'm not going into it, how many power it can generate, etc. But 1 ton of uranium ore can give only 1.5 kilos of uranium fuel. 1 ton of ore can give you only 1.5 kilo of uranium fuel. So if you have 76,000 tons, you know how much fuel you can get, about 100 odd kilos of fuel only you'll get. But that will be enough to produce a lot of. So that's all is available in India. So therefore, you cannot overconsume your domestic uranium. So you tell nuclear power plants, don't generate too much of power. Produce only less power. And we have to manage with available uranium. No more uranium is available. Now you go back to the discussion we had last time. Nuclear power is not growing enough in India. One of the reasons is that uranium is not there domestically available. And what is available from abroad is only for 13 reactors. So 11 odd reactors will have to use the little uranium which is available from within the country, which can support only 10 gigawatts of power for 30 years. That's all it can produce. So either it can increase power, but for less years, or reduce power and run it for more years. So this has to be worked out by the concerned ministry and say how much uranium you should consume. We are looking at some more exploration for uranium, whether it's available in Rajasthan or Jharkhand or somewhere else, but so far success has not come. Yesterday, on 2nd March, Canada and India have signed a deal that they will supply 10,000 tons of uranium ore. That is 11.5 kilos of uranium fuel from which you can get. But they will supply 10,000 tons of uranium ore. You must have read in the papers this morning that this deal has been cleared by the visiting Prime Minister of Canada, along with the discussions with our Prime Minister. So some uranium ore you will get from there. But the fact is, we have to look at beyond uranium or conserve our uranium, because these power plants are already designed for uranium. You can't put anything else. Only uranium can be used in those power plants. So for these power plants to run, we have to conserve and create a reserve of, strategic reserve of our own uranium domestically available to a limited scale. Just remember that. That is why India is not able to make too much of nuclear power. R&D work is going on to make thorium-based reactors. We can discuss this if required during a question and answer session. They have been trying for the last 15 years, not yet perfected. But we want to make 100 gigawatts of nuclear power from what you are doing now at 8 gigawatts, 100 gigawatts you want by 2047 from what you're doing now at 8 gigawatts. Huge jump you want. If thorium comes, well and good. We got plenty. But what to do at the moment, that has not been successful. So we have to create strategic reserves for uranium. How much uranium you're keeping a strategic reserve, etc., is a secret. This thing is not required to be in the public domain. But I've told you that we have to save it for power versus time. If you want more power, then only so many years. If you want less power, you can have for more years. So that is a decision with the government, and the details are safely safeguarded from public consumption. Now I come to liquefied natural gas, LNG. LNG also 50% is important, 50% is available in India. There are no strategic reserves, because in a talk 1.5 years back, I had said LNG will be strategic reserve will be created for LNG. But now, in the last 1.5 years, government has taken a decision. No, we will not create a strategic reserve for LNG, and I will tell you why. It is actually natural gas, but when it comes from outside or when it comes from field and when it has to be transported, it is under pressure and made a liquid and then transported. And wherever it goes, it is brought back to gas and used. So if you see CNG, it is compressed natural gas. The liquid becomes gas, but the gas is still under some pressure, compressed CNG. That is used in auto rickshaw and cars, etc. So CNG is actually coming from LNG. LNG is liquid, CNG is gas under certain pressure. So we have 8 terminals all along the coast. Understandable, because ship has to come and deliver liquid natural gas. And huge 25,000 kilometer pipeline is laid all over India, east to west and south to north. You have a LNG terminal in Cochin also. And we consume 71 billion cubic meter, out of which 50% is imported, 50% is domestic. GAIL is the agency which distributes this LNG, but they give preference to fertilizer plants because they require LNG in a big way, and also to refineries and other industries. LNG is not used for power generation because the cost is very high. So it is just almost double of coal, the cost. So LNG is not preferred for power generation, even though we have 2-3 high value power generation plants where LNG can be run, but we are not exploiting it, only keeping it alive. So I've told you there are 8 terminals, 6 in West Coast, 2 in East Coast. So government has decided not to create a storage for strategic reserve, but they have told all terminals expand your local storage. That means they are storing it at the 8 terminals where liquid comes. Some more tanks are being made to keep liquids. The more liquids are being kept so that from the present what they are storing, it can be expanded up to 66 billion cubic meter, which will almost be, as per today's consumption, we consume 71. So up to 66 can be stored, and it will last for not even, it will last for about 7 months of stock, which we'll have. But as I told you, natural gas is used only for transportation as compressed gas, as well as for some of the factories. Right, okay. But there's no strategic reserve. It'll remain as buffer stock only. You can say, in this case, there is hardly a difference between strategic reserve and buffer stock. It comes as liquid, converted to gas, and then it is used. If you have a storage, then you will take it somewhere and store as a liquid only. So there's no difference between a buffer stock and a strategic reserve as far as LNG is concerned. Now let's come to gold. We have 880 tons of gold in India. We come after United States, Germany, Italy, all this. We are 8th in the world as far as gold stock is concerned. And recently we have added 20 more tons. If you have been following this gold market, sometime back we bought 20 more tons of gold. We bought a lot of silver also from the international market. So 20 more tons, it has become 900 tons now. Out of which, what you need to know is, out of this 900 tons which India has, 610 is in India. A lot of gold which is in London has been brought back recently also. Barrels are still in London. So very close to 300 is lying in London. About 600 plus is lying in India. That's all you need to bump up. And USA, of course, has got a lot of gold, 8,000 odd. Today, gold reserve is a part of foreign exchange. You'll release gold and then convert it to dollar, and release gold and convert to euro. So today, gold is seen as another form of foreign exchange. And there are no more gold mines in India. Whatever gold mines we had has all been completely depleted. Some 70 tons is lying, estimated to be lying in some mines in Karnataka, some in Gujarat, and some in Jharkhand, etc. But no serious gold mining is taking place in India now. Sorry. Okay. We have, but a lot of gold is there with you, with me, and with somebody else, and Dr. Sabu. All of them got gold. That is not in this list. So I'm going to touch upon that. Indians have in their private possession 25,000 tons of gold. This is an estimate by the World Gold Council. We have 25,000 tons of gold in our homes, which are held by individuals, held by institutions, and which is more than USA's and Germany's and Italy's and France all put together, because gold, we have been right from earlier days, we have been saving our assets in the form of gold. It has been appreciating, and families have been keeping gold as the fallback for any financial requirement. So religious institutions, many temples, many churches, etc., have got a lot of gold. That's about 4,000 tons, over and above this 25,000 tons. So, of course, these are with the individual possession. It is available in the country. Individuals may give away the gold and convert to cash at some point of time. But as it stands, about nearly 30,000 tons are held with individuals and religious institutions, which is outside the government stock of 900 tons of gold. Just for information. Now I come to foreign exchange. We have about $709 billion. Everything is in dollars in foreign exchange. And as I told you earlier, it is used by Reserve Bank of India to maintain our rupee, which is actually taking a beating now following the Middle East issue. But the Reserve Bank tries to keep it as safe as possible. It is not only in dollars. There could be some euro, there could be some UK pounds, it could be some other currencies. All put together is 709 billion, which we keep. It also or some money which we kept with IMF. That's also included in the 709. So India is in the top country as far as foreign currencies and this thing are concerned. So I told you it's 709. We are ranking 4th in the world. China, Japan, Switzerland are above us. And the 709 includes foreign currencies. It requires gold, which I talked about earlier, the 900 tons of gold. Then some special drawing rights, which are there with the international agency. And IMF reserve is about 4.7. All this put together, we are in 709. India is doing fairly well. Our situation is good. And we haven't found any degradation in this. We are continuously getting inflows there, which from foreign countries, dollars, which are investments coming in and keeping the reserves, forex reserve high. Now let's see what's happening in healthcare. This is something which has happened recently. Now, government reserve maintains strategic reserves and buffer stock. Both it keeps for healthcare. For Napa virus, 1 lakh vaccines are kept as strategic reserve since October 25. It was not there earlier because it is repeatedly happening in many parts of India. So the government has decided to keep a strategic reserve of 1 lakh vaccines for any emergency. If a pandemic-like situation comes in some part, localized pandemic, then they have to react very fast. So for Napa virus alone, they are keeping for rest of the vaccines which are required for diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, polio, this, etc. It's a buffer stock of what you will consume, 25% of what you expect to consume during a delivery cycle, because these are delivered by pharmaceutical companies. They have a lead time of 3 months or 4 months. So what you will consume in 4 months, expect to consume in 4 months, 25% is kept as buffer stock in different places by the government. And for the rest of the medical items, so I talked about vaccines first. For the rest of the medical items, the Ministry of Health has issued detailed instructions to state governments and all health centers and all hospitals how much stock they should maintain of drugs, medical consumables, be it gloves, syringes, PPE, etc., so that they are able to meet any immediate emergency. And that is maintained continuously as buffer stock by the governments, authorities, state governments, as well as by various hospitals. So I talked to you about healthcare. The new thing is Napa virus 1 lakh vaccines. Now I come to food. In food, I don't know whether you remember, we discussed this last year. There is a place called Svalbard in Norway. It is in hills which are covered with mountains, which are covered with ice. Inside that mountain, right inside the mountain, they have created a vault called Doomsday Vault, where you can store your seed. You can store the seed of the grains, the cereals, different types of plants you have. They can be stored, and over 200 countries have stored their items there in Svalbard. Of course, India is also there. Our government maintains a buffer stock of grains in India. Apart from this, is a strategic reserve in Svalbard. But first, the buffer stock, we maintain buffer stock in 2,500 godowns of FCI and 9 crore tons of grains we can do. In addition, the government keeps 0.5 crore tons in some other place, which is the wheat and rice, for about a 20 days strategic reserve. Because what is an FCI is continuously moving to states and then comes through public distribution system. So the government keeps a 20-day strategic reserve in another location, about 0.5 crore tons of 60% wheat and 40% rice. In addition, we have kept 6,000 samples of seeds here in Svalbard to borrow if there is a famine in our country and you want to restart agricultural activity and we want the seed because all the seeds have gone bad or they have been consumed and we are not able to restart agricultural production, then we can draw it back from Svalbard and bring it to India to start our agricultural production. So we have kept these seeds there. It is under storage, frozen completely, which is under international care. All countries, about 200 countries have kept their one. And there are only 13 lakh samples are there from 85 countries are already deposit the items, but 200 countries can deposit. So they have made allocation for space for 200 countries in this vault. 85 countries have already deposited. That's in Svalbard. What's happening in India? Let's see that. So India has started a similar doomsday vault in Ladakh. This happened in June 2025, about 7-8 months back. India started a smaller vault in Ladakh where you can store 10,000 seeds and 200 plant species, which is the second largest in the world, has been started. And this facility is managed by ICAR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, and DRDO's Defense Institute of High Altitude Research. They manage this facility. And many countries have suffered in recent years damages to their seed vault. Many countries have started this seed vault, but due to war in Ukraine, natural disasters in Philippines, Thailand, some technical cause in Italy, whatever they created, they had problem of damages to their seed vault. So India's seed vault, which started in June 2025, is already functioning. The government plans to create one more. Location is not disclosed, but I would presume it will be somewhere to the eastern side. They will create one more seed vault, which they want to do in a similar manner to create storage for seeds which are required for us for our dals and rice and wheat and other things which are required in case there is a famine. So the strategic reserve for food security is in two places for India. One, Svalbard in Norway, and other in Ladakh, a smaller doomsday vault, and a third one will get started after a few years. We'll come to know about it when the government announces the commencement of this doomsday second one. Now, what are the additional things which I think we should have? That's what we're going to discuss now. The first thing is rare earth. Why are we so much worried about rare earth? So, brief introduction to you. There are 17 types of rare earth. I'm not going into details of their names, not required. 17 rare earths are there identified by scientists over the last 150 years. And these rare earths are required for manufacturing strong magnets, permanent magnets, which are required for defense equipment, solar panel controls, wind turbines, electric vehicles, etc. So for producing these magnets, permanent magnets, which will be very strong, at the same time very small in size, we require 4 types of rare earth. I've written there. I've written their code, PRTB, NDFY. These are required. We have to find how to get it. And I'll tell you how to get it. But these 4 are required by us. For semiconductor industry, which we have started about 1.5 years back, we require 6 types of REs, rare earths, whose details are there. These 6, some are common between the first 4 and this 6. Now, these rare earths are required by us. Where do we get from? I will tell you. So, we need to create a reserve. Once we have rare earth is not available as an isolated item, we have to extract it from some other ore. I'll briefly tell you that in the next slide. But I want to tell you, no rare earth is required for lithium battery. So if you're linking up lithium battery to rare earth, no connection. Lithium battery works on lithium, which is not a rare earth. It is another type of item. It's a chemical, different type of chemical. So you may require a rare earth for the permanent magnet in an electrical vehicle, which uses lithium battery. But for lithium battery, no rare earth is required. Just remember that. No rare earth is required. And the common source for all these rare earth which we want is a mineral called monazite. You may know this name. Monazite, which is found in the beach sands of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and Orissa. So the beach sand in these 4 states, coastal states, have lots of monazite. And in those monazites, you have some rare earth oxides lying. So these 7, which I have indicated here by green, and these 4 red, 4 are common with green. These are the rare earths which we require for our solar panels, wind turbines, defense equipment, electric vehicles, semiconductor industry. So this is absolutely important, very, very essential, very critical. And the answer lies in the beach sands of these 3 states, these 4 states, Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. These states have lots of monazite available, and India has got the highest reserve of monazite in the world, 13 million tons of monazite. And if you take 1 ton of monazite, 60% is, 1 ton is 1000 kgs. 600 kgs is rare earth oxide. So from that oxide, you can extract. So first what you do is, you take out the sand. Then these oxides are slightly bigger than the sand. So you do CV, physical segregation, by different sizes. You do segregation, and then you will get these particles of these oxides, which are slightly bigger than sand. Then those particles, which are rare earth oxides, are sent to a chemical factory where they are chemically treated to remove the oxygen, and you will get those rare earth. So you do a physical segregation at the beach or nearby the beach, take it to a factory somewhere else, chemically remove the oxygen and get the rare earth. Then we can have these rare earths available for our various industries. Now, it's not only for our use, we can even export also. We've got so much of monazite, we can export. Today, 85 to 90% is coming from China for all the countries in the world. So if we start doing our rare earth and create a rare earth industry, then we will be able to export rare earths to other countries as well. We will become an important player as far as rare earth is concerned. So some corridors are being planned. You must have read in the budget paper that the government is creating a rare earth corridor in these 4 states because raw material is available, skilled labor is available, ports are available for exporting if required, and you have to create some chemical factories now by which rare earth can be extracted from the rare earth oxide. And 7,000 odd crores have been given in the budget for creating all these facilities. I would think once these facilities are set up, etc., the government will create a strategic reserve for rare earth. For different types of rare earth, we will create some strategic reserve so that our own industry is supported well and some can be exported to other countries. So this may happen a year from or 2 years from now. Okay, let's go to the next. Water. Now, this is a little tricky subject. We don't have any water strategic reserve, but we have only buffer stock. In India, which is hugely monsoon dependent, 70% of monsoon is lost. It goes to sea or it is in the dam and it evaporates and we get only 30% to use. If our monsoon is good, all our large dams can get filled and they can store up to 170 billion cubic meter. Apart from that, if monsoon is good, groundwater also get recharged to 450. So every time monsoon comes, buffer stock takes place in 2 layers. One, the dam, reservoir. Second, ground gets recharged and the water lies there. We can extract whenever we want. Now, if the monsoon is not good, then we have a problem. We don't have enough water to fill up dams. Dams don't get filled up. Groundwater gets over-consumed. So we pray every year that monsoon should be good. On top of it, now we have started data center and semiconductor industries, which are requiring a lot of water. They demand a lot of water. So our water condition is little precarious at this point of time, especially near these industrial centers, because a lot of water is taken away by these industries or taken away by data centers. We'll discuss separately one day data centers. But this is what the situation is. So there is a need for government to create some method by which water, additional storage takes place of water to meet the industrial requirement. Or you have to make sure groundwater is not taken away by unauthorized people. So groundwater, you should make sure people don't extract much. As a passing point, I will tell the Indian law permits every person to take the water from the ground, from the land he owns. So nobody can stop you taking water from the ground. That is as per legal position. So there a lot of changes are required on waterfront, how to control our water usage. Today, India expects every citizen to get only 135 liters a day. Average is 135 liters a day for one citizen. If all these industries come up, then this 135 may come down. And if the monsoon is bad, it will come down further. So it's a serious issue. And I think the government is looking at how to create more water storage at different places. So far, No document has come out from the government on this, but as and when it comes, I'll share with you one day what are the reserves which are being created. But I think it is required. Next 2-3 years, we should do it. We can't be ever dependent on the annual monsoon only. We have to create some other strategic reserve. Okay. Now we come to the last one, which is data. You must be wondering, why am I asking about data? And today, everything is in digital domain. Data centers are created to have data of the government data of industries, and now we are looking at how other countries can store their data in India. Our data centers are going to grow. We already have 250 data centers in India, but they may grow even much, much more. Obviously, they will take away more water. When we discuss data centers, I will tell you the details. But data is going to grow because that is where the strength lies in future. Be it the data regarding strategic data regarding our borders, be it regarding census data, be it regarding citizen identity, multiple language data, and artificial intelligence is coming to read any language, any document, and then corroborate. All this requires a lot of data, and you require to create data centers and reserves for data handling. What happens if one data center goes defective or gets damaged, or there's an earthquake and everything gets damaged? You have to create some reserve somewhere else, which will not be touched, which will not happen. Suppose there's a flood, there's an earthquake. What happens to all our data? So there's a requirement to look at these aspects of future. And the government says, now let us give incentives to data center till 2047 so that we can set up a lot of data centers. It's good for us, good for our employment, good for our economic growth, etc. Of course, water will get hit a little bit. So simultaneously, water reserves also have to be created. But what many countries have started doing is they have created data center underwater. They have made the data center not in a building. They have made data centers in huge cylinders like submarines, huge one, and lowered it into this water. So it is cooled better. Power requirement is also less, and it doesn't get affected as much as what will happen on land. And therefore, is that the future location which you're looking at? Data center, etc. So I'll give you some examples. See, this is an example from what happened in UK. They have been able to create data centers. You see this 1, 2, 3, 4. These are data centers at the bottom of the sea, very close to their coastline, which are connected to a pontoon like this on top. From there, the power comes from windmill, and from there, connectivity is there to land as well as to sea cable, etc. They prefer using the water medium for higher efficiency so that you don't require so much of cooling effort is not required. Water is not required. So much of power is also not required to cool it. So a strategic reserve is required. Somewhere we have to keep which is safe. Should it be underwater, or should we keep it in a satellite and put all the data in the satellite? Okay, sending data to satellite, getting it back, it takes time. It may not be, but can it be safe in a satellite? What is our plan? What are we thinking of? No such document has come out, but I'm sure it will come out in future that we have to keep our data, which are required for governance, which are required for industries, which are required for our various institutions. We have to have fallback our data, and data centers cannot be just left without enough fallback, enough reserves. So somewhere reserves are to be created. So far, there's no country which has created reserves, and they're not calling it a reserve. But I'm sure uh, leading countries like USA, etc., have some reserves for many warfare functions. They are creating strategic reserve of data so that they are able to run programs with the AI and generate warfare solutions. But this is of something of future. So I've told you for three future things which have to happen. Uh, Definitely, the regarding rare earth has to happen earlier. Then water has to happen after some time, and data may also happen after some time. These are the future strategic reserves which India may create, as per me. So with that, I come to my conclusions. I told you buffer stock is for ready use, and strategic reserve is for raw material which can be processed and used later. And we have strategic reserves for, I told you, we discussed all this uranium, crude oil, gold, seeds, etc. But I think those three, rare earth and water and data, should come the years ahead. In addition, we should have buffer stock for important minerals. Coal we are not worried about because we are going to have coal. But there are many other minerals which we need to keep stock, critical minerals which we need to keep, aluminium, copper, etc. We need to keep stock as buffer stock. Food, grains, and medicines we already discussed. They are mostly buffer stock, except for vaccine. One-out vaccine, we are keeping a strategic reserve for Napa virus. And for health, we are telling all the state governments and hospitals, etc., keep a buffer stock for your immediate requirement, which you have generated the data over a period of time. And strategic reserves, when they are created, when they are maintained, they become a fallback for your economy when there is disturbance, when there's turmoil, when there's uncertainty at global level. So strategic reserves help you to tide over situations when global uncertainty peaks. Unfortunately, it is happening now in our world, in the Middle East. With this, I close my presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Jai Hind.